Ivan, welcome.
Thank you, Rick.
Delight,
Pleasure to be here.
delightful to have you back with us. I'd like to begin the discussion with you by giving some of the viewers who might have uh, less of a memory of your background, something about the successes that you and your partner enjoyed early in the career. Talk, if you could, about your early efforts and the two monetizations that I'm referring to.
Sure. Thanks, Rick. 2005, I was working with a gentleman named Dr. Roman Shkalenka, who is credited with finding 7 major mines around the world. And Sean, my partner, Sean Wallace, was working with the Hunter Dickinson Group, who's found and built several mines around the world. We came together to go and try and do it ourselves, seeing if we were ambitious and smart enough to do it. And we got very fortunate. We found some brilliant geologists, found 5 million ounces of gold in Ghana. We performed from 50 cents to $9 per share. We did not sell that company. However, we built the mine. It's producing about 250,000 ounces today. The second success, which started in 2011 at the start of the bear market, was Caden Resources. We went to go do it again. And we went to Mexico this time. And after about 100 successful drill holes in 2014, we sold the company for $3.60 per share Canadian to Agnico Eagle, where we were smart enough and fortunate enough to get shares of Agnico that doubled subsequently in the subsequent 12 months. So we've been through discovery, we've been through the building of a mine, we've been through the transaction of selling an asset, and then we started a company called Orin, where from 2015 to 2020, we raised over $100 million trying to find something much bigger with the team we incorporated from Newmont, a lot of the Newmont former global experts. And that kind of got us to where we are today once we had split Orin into 3 companies, and here today to talk about Tier 1 Silver.
So let's talk about Tier 1 Silver. I guess, first of all, my definition of Tier 1, it goes back to my time in university, which sadly was before you were born. Tier 1, in that parlance, is a world-class deposit. Tier 1 means that it is in the top quartile of return on capital employed and the bottom quartile in terms of total cost of production, and is a deposit that could materially improve the fortunes of one of the largest mining companies in the world. So describe, if you will, the exploration potential of the ground that you're exploring in the context of your name, Tier 1.
Sure, and we chose the name exactly for the definition. We went to Peru 5 years ago, and we went after the big ones. A gentleman by the name of Miguel Cardozo took us into Peru. He's credited with the discovery of Yanacocha, and that's a 60 million ounce deposit, which definitely meets that Tier 1 status.
Peru hosts 60 million ounce gold, by the way, not silver. 60 million ounce gold.
60 million ounce gold deposit.
Thank you.
And Peru is well known for its incredibly large copper, gold, and silver deposits. And so for us, we went on the coast and we were contrarians, at this point, and we went to pick up ground that Anglo was shedding. And as they were shedding this non-core assets, the market was definitely not there back in 2015, 2016. We got a piece of ground that was 1/3 of a bigger piece of pie. And the reason why we chose this ground is because it was on the belt of some of the largest mines in the world and in Peru, such as Tocopala, Quellaveco, and Cerro Verde. These are 2 to 4 billion ton porphyries that will be mined for 50 plus years. They're incredibly massive. Tocopala is the closest one to our project. It's 2 billion tons of about 0.6% copper and silver and a bit of gold in it. And so the address was right, Rick, to go for a world-class swing. And the property that Anglo had happened to sit in a very opportunistic, not to get too deep into the science, geological trend that could have some kind of a signature on it that we had previously sampled, leading us towards a copper, silver, and gold signature. We were quiet about this asset for about 3 years because we were trying to get the other 2 pieces, which were held by Teck, and it was also held, another third piece was held by Wild Acres, an Australian junior. We got into a gridlock. The Wild Acres had the high-grade silver showings on surface. Both us and Teck had the land around it. And so Wild Acres turned around and told us politely, no, thank you, we'll take all the ground here. And we stopped speaking with that company. they succeeded in buying text ground, and we were able to wait patiently. As I was taught by my previous mentor, Roman Shkalenka, good things come to those who wait for a very long time. And we were able to get all three because the Australian junior went bankrupt and became a hearing aid company. And so the hardest part about assembling this land position, besides picking the right address, was negotiating with the CFO of a hearing aid company out of Australia. But we did it, Rick, and the story got better because when we sold Caden, David Smithson was our geologist with Dan McCoy. David Smithson was the real weapon there that really showcased Barcanio properly to Agnico. And so he got on this asset and he started sampling high grade silver in veins. And we saw some, multi-kilo silver. We got excited. And he kind of was in my ear saying, Ivan, you've got to do whatever it takes to deal with this hearing aid company to go get the rest of this ground. It looks really promising. So David, Michael Henriksen, and a consultant that we work with from one of the majors went down to go look at it. And they started to see evidence of something more than just some high grade on surface. Long story short, we went and we sampled 80 samples run from half a kilo silver to 300 kilos silver in multiple veins emanating from an area on surface. This area is a 20 square kilometer, 4 by 5 kilometer alteration system that's also hosting a lot of gold, 60 samples running above 2 grams to up to 934 grams, almost a kilo gold. So endowment was there, Rick. We certainly saw grades. And for me, I've been doing this for 21 years. I haven't seen grades like that, gold or silver, over top of a target, where everything's emanating out like a flower from this source in my career. And then we still didn't know that this was going to go the distance and that we could call it a tier 1 swing until we age dated the rocks. And this was really critical because in this part of Peru, the rocks are covered by volcanics, which are much younger than the rocks that host some of these world-class mines such as Tocopala, Cerro Verde. So we age dated the rocks and the silver, and it was age dating back to Paleocene, about 59 million years old, which was the exact era that Tocopala, Quellaveco, all these big mines were formed. The difference here, in those mines, the precious metal system is eroded off, and you're starting with a base metal, discovery with a bit of precious metals in it. In our case, once we did the chargeability, geophysics, all the cool science of electricity and magnetics into the ground, we've got a 750 vertical meter window of veins, feeder structures, and a big disseminated target that's, goes up to 400 or 500 meters in width from as narrow as a few meters in width. So it's a really robust precious metal target. And then the last thing that happened here was there's a massive intrusion underneath it, identified through magnetics. And this is pointing towards the potential event that formed this precious metal deposit. In a lot of deposits around the world, there's a telescoping event where you go from precious metals into base metals. In this case, the entire precious metal system is preserved. The grades are bonanza beyond belief everywhere. And then you're sitting on top of what could be another big porphyry on this huge porphyry trend. And that's how it came together. And that's why it ranks to us as a tier 1 kind of swing. Being smart and understanding exploration risk better than I'd like to say I have experience for doing so, because I've been through a lot that haven't made it. But what we did was we built a portfolio of projects for this company so that we're not a one-hit wonder. And the coolest thing about Curibaya is that it'll take 1,000 meters to drill it and probably 25,000 meters for us to tell everybody the deposit's not there. That's how many targets there are. That's how big the system is. And this is just the start on this property. We haven't even looked at the other 2/3 yet, which we're doing now, and seeing some big porphyry signatures that could complement what I'm talking about right now.
So let's dig down a bit. You've been through this process with me before, but probably never publicly. My methodology is always the unanswered question. Your thesis is that you have, in effect, a world-class epithermal system overprinted on a porphyry intrusive. The proof of the porphyry intrusive, at least thus far, has been geophysical or magnetic. The proof of the epithermal overprint is surface sampling.
Hmm.
And that's useful to me. What it means is that you didn't make up a thesis that was convenient to
No,
you because of the market. That, as a
no.
matter of fact, there's some data. There's some data that supports the thesis. First of all, tell me who originated this thesis and what sort of expertise they have, and why I should care what their thesis is.
So Michael Henriksen and Dave Smithson, these two geologists, we met back in our Keegan days. They were working on a HOFO for Newmont. It was an 8 million ounce gold deposit, a bit of a history here. And they were two geologists on a team of some incredibly smart geologists, world all global experts at Newmont, heads of departments in their specific geologic training. Michael was the global structural geologist, Dave was the global mapper. Those two gentlemen stood up with a crowd of professionals and told Newmont not to sell a HOFO. They said it gets bigger than 8 million ounces. Ghana was a headache. Newmont wanted out, and it wasn't big enough. Short story or long story short, that deposit's now pushing 30 million ounces. They got their reputation of being called gold ninjas within Newmont. And they were sent around the globe looking at all the mines, including Yanacocha, different ones in Peru, to go look for these world class or add ounces to existing mines. These two gentlemen are the ones who said that address on the world class trend, that's where you want to be. That's where we'd go if we were with Newmont. So that's who started the thesis. Dave was the one who looked past a few high grade samples and thinking of thin veins and thought there could be more there and championed it. And then Mike and Dave got into an incredibly smart debate, and they both came out with fists on the table and said, guys, this is like nothing we've ever seen before. And they were really scared to come out with the concept of a telescoping deposit, an overprinting precious metal system on top of an intrusion or a porphyry, as you said, because that's truly the ultimate dream of any geologist. From my perspective, Rick, and you had a good comment there, I love silver. I've wanted to do a silver deal for 20 years since I stepped foot in the business, because I've seen how silver companies perform when you get a good silver discovery. This came by fortune more than anything else, that the right people in the team got there. And the last caveat I'll put is the gentleman on our board who you know quite well is Antonio Ribas, a gentleman that was the chief geologist for Newmont, the former VP of geosciences for BHP, incredible explorationist, one of my favorite people I've met in the business. He looked at this project at the state where it's now, and this by no means implies a discovery is going to be made. And he said, I've seen this a few times in my career, and the few times I've seen and felt like this about a target, they have become world-class mines or tier one discoveries, whether that was with me at the company I was at or a subsequent company drilled it. And the only caveat he gave us, Rick, and it's to my comment earlier, it may take us 30 holes to make the first discovery hole. It may happen in your first 5. He says, be patient. This is a big system, the right trend, and everything he's seen from the guys has quantified that kind of world-class swing that I'm talking about here. So you have some really, really established professionals coming from the largest gold company in the world. And that's why we're beating our chest so loudly, on the stage and where we can, that we think we've got it, because it's a really good lottery ticket in terms of making the big one.
So you say it'll take, if I understand you correctly, 30 holes to prove or disprove, fill or kill.
I'd say
Um, uh,
1,000 meters to find it, probably 30 holes to kill it. Yeah, that's correct.
okay. So answering the unanswered question, I guess right now, given the advanced stage of target definition that you're on, the
Mm-hmm.
unanswered question now really is structure in the third dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how do you test that thesis?
Mm-hmm.
How much money will it take? How long will it take? And do you have enough money to do that? In other words, can you get through 30,000 meters?
Sure. We're funded right now. We just raised 13.5 million. We have $14 million in our treasury. So we can drill 12,000 meters without having to ask for more money, which is 2 phases. The first phase is going to be 5,000 meters. Then we're going to take a pause, intelligently, decide where we go next. And then we'll drill the next 7,000 meters. In the spirit of a discovery that happens early, we will raise that number, we will raise money, and I think we would have a raising share price if we get into that discovery and look to add more drills and increase those meters. But being prudent and careful with walking before we run and learning about this discovery, we're going to start slower. The deposit right now, the property shows us 3 different feeder structures that are emanated from about a 400 by 600 meter massive chargeability target that would be the source of possibly where the precious metals occur. Those feeder structures go from that emanating target for about 200 meters before they turn into narrower veins to 300 meters. So there's some pretty substantial, targets that are coming out of the geophysics that give us a lot of room to keep going. So yeah, we're funded to drill twice, in terms of 2 intelligent programs. We will start drilling in the second half of May, and we plan to drill right to the end of the year continuously. We're still looking for the answer if we haven't had it by the time December rolls around.
So are you going to poke around vein swarms, or are you going to sort of, if you will, shoot for the apple and go for the deeper, hopefully richer feeder structures?
We're going to go for 3 different things. We're going to drill through a vein mantos. As the veins came up to surface, they hit an impermeable layer that the veins started to trend left to right sideways. So it's a nice open pit target that starts. Then we're going to go after the kind of spider web, those vein swarms that you've just mentioned, which will be the next 100 meters. And then we're going to get into the feeder structures, which are the big ones emanating from a disseminating target. This is not done. Then we're going to drill into the porphyry target. The porphyry target starts at about 500 meters down from surface. It gets big. If you listen to the whole thing and watch the video, it's really exciting. Once we get into the porphyry target, if we are successful and that magnetic intrusion is real, we'll keep the drill going. We can go down to about 1900 meters from surface. So we're going to cross all of these targets with certain drill holes in the program to give us that look, pretty quickly. We're not going to drill our best hole first. It's building a drill pad up on top of a hill to get there, but that'll be hole 5. But we still don't know what the best hole is because nobody has ever drilled this before. And the cool thing about a project like this is that it could be amazing, and you could find something really, make that global scene, that tier 1 discovery. The scary part is you could find something like that, and is there enough Kool-Aid, or is the Kool-Aid got vodka in it that's going around the water cooler, right? And from that perspective, we've spoken to a handful of majors, and the validation and the compliments of our thesis has been amazing. The only thing that we cannot speculate on properly without a drill bit is grade and width, which happens to be the multi-billion-dollar answer to the question. But no, it's truly unique in the sense that it does have that much potential in it.
So Ivan, as I understand the answer you gave me, you are funded through and have thought through 2 drilling campaigns. Obviously, you have your targets sequential. How long will those 2 campaigns take? In other words, when will the answers to the first unanswered questions be available to investors and speculators?
Well, the first answers, we're going to start drilling at the end of May, which puts us for the first results in July. And to drill the full 12,000 meters would take us into probably 12 months from as I talk today to complete the full 12,000 meters. Now, while we're doing this, being intelligent explorationists, this is our 3rd time or 4th time, trying to deliver this value for shareholders. We are going to be quietly bringing some other potential tier 1 exploration projects to the drill ready stage. Just because the project looks good, Rick, and all the answers and all the boxes are ticked there besides a drill hole, doesn't mean you necessarily have it. So we want to put ourselves in the position so that people always have a chance to speculate, and there's always a tier 1 target in this company. And you will see that information come to life sometime next year, because the focus is what we're talking about right now today. But it's nice to know that if we miss everything and it's absolutely not there, which is the risk of any good exploration project, there are other really high quality projects that we've put into the company.
I think what I'd like people listening to this call to understand is the fact that in every exploration program, for some reason, speculators have trauma holding stock over a long weekend. And you make money in exploration by getting an answer to an unanswered question. It's useful that people have a sense of the time and capital required to give them a chance to be right. And in your case, it seems like you could be lucky quickly, but one shouldn't count on luck. A speculator here has to give you and your team the opportunity to test the thesis to get a yes answer. And obviously, a few times in my career, I've been the beneficiary of a yes answer on a tier 1 deposit. I don't need to tell you, Ivan, but some of the people listening don't know just exactly how much fun that is. So wishing you every success. Thank you again for your sponsorship. Albert, back to you.